state, if there's an objection to it, you can make your objection, and I'll give the defense a chance to respond to that objection, and I will make a plea. So ask your question, defense.
Mark thought he was going to have sex with you because you had led him to believe that's what was going to happen that day, right?
No, sir.
Speculation.
All right, the objection, the witness has already answered. Ask your next question.
Thank you, Judge. Yesterday, to recap, we talked about the fact that Mark had tried to contact you on Instagram some time back before this incident, correct?
Correct.
And he had contacted you, right?
Correct.
And that resulted in you blocking him from your Instagram account, right?
Correct.
Because his account was largely pornographic in nature, right?
Objection, that's been asked and answered, and speculation.
All right, that'll be, the objection to ask and answer will be overruled.
You can answer the question, ma'am.
Correct.
And after you blocked him, you created a different Instagram account, correct?
Yes.
In fact, you've created several different Instagram accounts over the years, right?
No, sir.
You've only created one new Instagram account?
I believe so. I've changed the username for my safety, but I've only had one other account.
Okay, so you've changed the username multiple occasions, right?
Yes, sir.
And so you eventually, through a different username, made contact with Mark again, or he made contact with you? Which was it?
I messaged him.
Okay. And you discussed doing a photo shoot, right?
Correct.
And you, and he asked you about doing the photo shoot in lingerie and underwear, right?
Correct.
And you advised the detective of this fact and the fact that you knew that that was the kind of photography he was into, correct?
Correct.
And so when Mark showed up at the car, he was surprised to see that there were all these other people in the car besides you, right?
No, sir.
But that's why he called off the photo shoot, wasn't it?
He said he had to reschedule because he had another person.
But he didn't text you that, did he?
No.
He told you that in person, inside your car, after you all had driven to pick him up for the photo shoot, right?
Correct.
So the only thing that had changed between the time that you talked to him before and the time he got in your car was that there were 3 dudes in the car with you, right?
Can you say that again?
The only
Or
difference
rephrase it?
between when you arranged for him to meet you for this shoot and when he got in the car was that there were 3 dudes in the car, right?
He knew there was people there.
Let me ask you a question. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes?
I'm going to show you what I've marked as Defendant's Exhibit 10. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
Who are the people depicted in that photograph?
My ex-boyfriend?
And you?
Yes.
I'm going to object to relevance, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I'm laying the
See,
foundation.
if I could see the exhibits, the exhibit, please.
Mr. Horace in roughly 2018 until 2021, something like that?
No.
Objection, relevant.
Sustained.
How long were you dating Mr. Horace?
Objection, relevant.
Sustained.
This case that you're involved in, do you recall that?
No.
Did you tell Mr. Horace that,
Objection, calls it hearsay, both hearsay and improper impeachment.
it's not improper impeachment, under 613, I have to confront her with the substance of her prior statement?
Objection is sustained.
You testified a moment ago that Mark knew that there would be men in the car with you, correct?
Correct.
But that is not what you told Mr. Horace, is it?
Objection, hearsay.
Don't be overruled.
That is not what you told Mr. Horace, is it?
I never told him anything besides that I had a case.
Okay. You never told Mr. Horace that you intended to get Mark to come for the photo shoot alone with you?
No, sir.
Now, you testified previously that you did not know Mark except as an acquaintance on Instagram, correct?
Correct.
But that's not what you told Mr. Horace, is it?
That is not true.
You told Mr. Horace that you've known Mark since high school, right?
No, sir. I knew him because of high school. He was older than us.
That's what I'm asking. Because of high school, you knew of him?
Of him, correct.
And you also told Mr. Horace that he tried to violate you on a prior occasion, correct?
No, I did not.
And you also told Mr. Horace that you didn't tell Mr. McIntyre or any of the other people in the car about this past interaction with Mark before getting in the car with him that day to pick him up, right?
No, sir.
And you also didn't tell Mr. McIntyre or anybody else that you secreted a gun underneath your seat in the car when you went to go pick him up that day, right?
That is not true.
You also didn't tell Mr. Horace that when he got in the car, you told everybody in the car about the fact that Mark was a pornographer and that he had done creepy things and that he tried to do creepy things with you while you were in high school, right?
I never said that.
And you also didn't tell anybody in the car, well, let me back up. You told Mr. Horace that when Mark told you that the photo shoot was called off, there was a demand to look into Mark's backpack to see if he really was a photographer, right?
No, sir.
And you told Mr. Horace that when you looked into the backpack and there was an examination of this camera, that you found child pornography, right?
Objection.
No, sir.
Objection, relevant.
Sustained. Yes, you may approach. First of all. Motion in limine. Defense, you were aware of the state's motion in limine. and I inform both parties, either side, if you have a motion in limine, before you enter into any territory that's the subject of the motion in limine, that you approach. And the reason why I do that is because, as both parties know, I do not know what the evidence is in your case. I don't know any facts of the case. I'm hearing this case as the jury is hearing it. And in the state's motion in limine, on page 2, it states, the state requests that the court grant this motion in limine and instruct the defense counsel to approach the bench and present the proposed evidence outside the presence of the jury before voir dire, opening statement, questioning, or in any matter bringing any witness or evidence of any of the following matters. And the number one thing says, any crimes, wrongs, or bad acts of the victim, Mark Anthony Saldivar. So, defense, it appears to the court that you violated the motion in limine, unless you're going to try to tell the court that possession of child pornography is not a bad act.
Your Honor, what I'm trying to elicit from the witness.
No. The question is whether or not you were aware of the motion in limine, which you were, and whether or not you violated it in regards to violation of condition number 1. What you're trying to do with the witness, and excuse me, I'm gonna have the witness step down, and counsel, you can take your client to the back. You're still under oath and the rule has been invoked. And what I can tell you, unless you have some photos of child pornography that you're saying that the complainant had, then you're just throwing questions out and you're violating the motion in limine. It clearly states that you all are supposed to approach. Now, unless you all think that child pornography is not a bad act, then I don't know why that's a crime. Because if you're saying it's not a bad act, you asked this witness a question and it involved child pornography. Did I hear that incorrectly?
You heard that correctly, Your Honor, and I wanted to also make aware to the court yesterday when we approached about my motion in limine, the court specifically regurgitated condition number 1 to defense in regards to the new photos.
Your Honor, I understand that the court is of the opinion we violated the motion.
No, not of the opinion. You violated the motion in limine. The motion in limine says that you are to approach before questioning or in any matter bringing any witness or evidence of any of the following matters. Any crimes, wrongs, or bad acts of the victim, Mark Anthony Saldivar. And you're asking this witness about whether or not he had child pornography or something in his camera. The court considers that a bad act.
Your Honor, to be clear, the questioning of the witness is intended to establish whether or not she previously made these statements. They're not being offered under Rule 1613 for their truth. They're being offered for what she said to another individual.
You are still, what you're questioning her about is a bad act that she said that was the bad act of the complainant. And that's a motion in limine. And you all should approach before you do that. You violated the motion. The court is finding that you violated the motion in limine. And the only question now is how is that corrected? Because nobody approached the court to say, I'm going to start asking questions that is related to number 1 to the state's motion in limine.
I understand the court's ruling. I've given my explanation for it. As far as the remedy is concerned, the court will do as it sees fit. I understand.
Oh, no, I am. But you're still, it appears to court, acting as though you haven't violated number 1, and you have. You violated that motion in limine.
Your Honor,
And I can tell you, yes, counsel.
I think we're shifted slightly. We understand the court's ruling. However, I do want the record to reflect, at least, that what we're asking is what the witness's previous statement. We are not accusing anybody of anything, and we're certainly not trying to accuse Mark, and we will be happy to explain to the jury.
It's still a violation of the motion in limine. Hypothetically, if somebody were to ask for it, any defendant, not just your defendant, if somebody were to ask a witness on the stand, hey, by the way, and didn't you tell somebody else that the defendant had possession of child pornography, the defense would be objecting because it's a violation of the motion in limine. It's a violation of the motion in limine in fact and in spirit.
Well, it is intended because this witness gave a number of prior statements. One to a police officer during an interrogation, which was video recorded. Another under oath before another judge in a different courtroom.
But here's the thing, it doesn't matter to the court. What matters to the court is that it's a bad act, and all you all had to do was approach the court. I would have heard it, what you are seeking to get from this witness, and I would have made a ruling on it. But instead, you have people who are violating rules, and I'm finding you violated the motion in limine rule. It's not supposed to be brought up until it's brought up to the court outside the presence of the jury. Now, what you have done is by bringing this up, I don't know if the jury's going to believe he was in possession of child pornography or not. I don't know if he was in possession of child pornography or not, because nothing has been presented to the court, and all you all had to do was approach the court and said, Your Honor, I believe we're going to go into number one of the state's motion in limine, and you know what I would have done? I would have had the jury step out, and I would have said, okay, what's the issue here? And you would have told me that, and I would have made a ruling.
I believe this came up yesterday.
No,
Yes.
Not the possession of child pornography?
The question of photographs on the camera of.
of nudes.
Right.
That's it, of nudes. And when we were here at the bench, I even told the state, okay, he has nude photos, allegedly. I said, how is that a bad act? Having a nude photo is not necessarily a bad act.
I see.
And both parties said, yes. Mr. Hunter, yes, Judge, you're right, it's not a bad act. And then we go a step further today, and now it's possession of child pornography. And I'm not going to allow you all to ask that question, and I'm going to instruct the jury to disregard.
We understand.
We understand. And there are some additional matters that she spoke of that have nothing to do with nudity or pornography.
And what would that be?
Your Honor, I don't believe that any other bad acts or potential bad acts of Mark Anthony Saldivar will be discussed other than those things which were discussed in opening statement related to the.
I'll determine whether it comes in or not. And you know why I'm going to determine whether it comes in or not? Because there was a state's motion in limine that says any crimes, wrongs, or bad acts of the victim, Mark Anthony Saldivar, you're to approach beforehand. And I need to make a ruling on whether or not it's relevant and whether or not it should be admissible. That's me. That's my job.
I understand your.
So what other acts or what other bad acts that you feel, crimes, wrongs, or bad acts of the victim, Mark Anthony Saldivar, that you feel this witness is going to be questioned about?
I can tell the court that it's going to be, and I don't know if there will be a dispute or not, that he damaged the vehicle. I guess that could be considered a bad act. I want to.
Well, with regards to the damage of the vehicle, allegedly, it said that he put his foot through the glass of the vehicle. That's a part of this whole alleged offense and the offense date. So, counsel, you all know that if there's evidence that's going to come in that he damaged the windshield, that's already in through other people.
Right, and the issue of what she said with respect to that to our client, she says that she didn't say anything, that she looked straight ahead, didn't look to the side.
All right,
didn't
so
look
here,
behind. May I just finish?
we're getting off track. We're with the bad acts.
Well, I'm gonna suggest that she has told people, and I believe if she says that's correct, that I never said anything other than that, to Mr. McIntyre, part of the race just of the offense, if she said something other than what she told the police officer, I believe that's a prior inconsistent statement, and we're entitled to ask her about
Here's the
it.
thing, I'm not challenging.
It has nothing to do with
I'm not
pornography, sex, anything else.
Counsel, I'm not challenging anyone on inconsistent statements.
Okay.
I'm not challenging anybody on that. The court knows the rules of evidence. What I am saying is, there's a motion in limine. And I think it's safe to say, for the people who have been practicing even a year, that you know you're not supposed to violate motions in limine. And number two, if there's an alleged offense and videos have been shown in exhibits that it's alleged to be, or maybe the jury feels it's already been established that the person who kicked in a window or damaged a window of a vehicle is the complainant, because witnesses have said it's the complainant who did that. So you all know, questioning the witness about that, that's really not about the motion in limine.
Right,
The
that's
motion
what
in
we're looking
limine is about your co-counsel violating it.
My able co-counsel, I can say if I can have 5 seconds, I believe he will go into next the matter of what was said that precipitated the fight.
Right. Let
And
me just-
I don't think it's about anything, and I think we're entitled to ask the witness.
Let me just tell you,
Yeah,
you violated the motion in limine.
we got it.
You will not ask this witness any questions about child pornography on a camera unless you have
We agree.
proof
We're
that
not-
there's child pornography on a camera.
Well, by the way, we do have proof of that, and it was a legitimate question. However, for the court's ruled on it, that's not what I'm discussing. I'm talking about what we're gonna do next. And, well, can't look into his mind. I presume, since the court has ruled on it, we can make a bill later, but we're not gonna do anything in front of the
Yeah.
jury. However, I do believe conversations, what she tells the police officer, what she tells the judge, if there's somebody that says you said something else, I believe that's fair game, that's impeachment, and all I don't wanna do is, we shouldn't have to have a hearing like this before we ask every question.
No,
And if it doesn't involve child pornography or some extraneous offense, I think we're
no,
entitled.
you all have to have a hearing because it's a part of their motion in limine.
Not
you can't
if it's
just-
not an offense
Here's,
or
yes,
misconduct.
and the last time I checked, possession of child
I would
pornography
agree.
is an
And-
offense.
And we're gonna be chastised and the court's gonna do stuff.
Oh, no, my chastisement is just stating the law. There's a motion in limine in place and the defense has violated. And I am not going to allow you to ask questions about child pornography.
We're not gonna do that, based
Okay.
on the court's ruling.
Let's bring
However,
the
we
jurors
should
in.
be
Your
able to-
Honor, just in anticipation, the only other aspects of this questioning that I believe will venture into territory that the state might object to would be questioning about whether or not she had a hand in getting the gun into Mr. McIntyre's hands, if that is in fact what happened. And secondly, whether or not she is a source of the marijuana, which I'm not clear on. There are-
All right, so here's the thing. And let me just tell you, this is what I'm gonna say this.
She was asked that.
This is what I'm gonna say, and I want you all to listen to me clearly. Both sides have been practicing law for more than 2 seconds. Everyone here knows that if you're asking questions, and those questions are related to what's already been brought in evidence, the marijuana,
You got
it's
it.
already in there. It's already in the evidence. Who had it, what they did with it? Yeah, you can ask questions about that.
And guns,
The gun, it's already there. But I don't want any deflections where people are pretending as though they don't know that they violated the motion in limine. So I'm bringing the jury back in, and I'm telling them to disregard the last question. I'm telling them to disregard any testimony or questions about child pornography. Does everyone understand?
yes.
And the defense, you violated the motion in limine. you could have your witness take the stand, please.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witness resigned the courtroom while those discussions were had?
Yes. Just 1 second, they're gonna bring the witness back. All right, you can bring this yours.
All right, for the jury.
All right, everyone, please be seated. And can I have counsel approach? Words, child pornography, you are to totally disregard that question. Does everyone understand? Is everyone able to do that? You are not to consider it for anything. You are to totally disregard the question, and I don't believe an answer to the question was made, but if an answer to the question was made, you are to totally disregard that answer as well. Does everyone understand? Is everyone able to do that? All right, defense, you can continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Reyes, you said that you didn't see anything other than the condoms that were shown to you, correct? In terms of the contents of his backpack?
Correct.
But you told the detective that there was the roll of condoms, lube, and a new outfit in the backpack, correct?
That's what Taymor said.
Okay, and you believed that, right?
No, I didn't believe anything.
You didn't tell the detective you didn't believe.
He asked me what was in the bag, and I said what was said to me.
So when you explained it, you were explaining it in terms of what someone else told you, not in terms of what you believed to be in the bag?
Correct.
I'm gonna call your attention.
He was like, give me all your shit, this and that, and then, so the guy doesn't want to give him his stuff. And I was just like, what are you doing? And then he was just like, just shut up. And he was like, give me your stuff. And then they started pulling the backpack away from him. And then that's when they opened it and saw all that stuff.
So what was in the bag again? You said
There was a roll of condoms, a lube, a bottle of lube, and a brand new outfit.
And Judge, sorry, just for purposes of record, what portion was out of the
I'm so sorry.
VOC player numbers?
I believe that's 1641.
1641?
So, when Mark gets in the car, he says in your words, he wanted to reschedule the photo shoot, right?
Correct.
But you proceeded to drive away from his house anyway. Didn't
He
you?
asked me for a ride to North Star.
Okay, so you were driving into North Star Mall, which was where you were going anyway, right?
Correct.
And that obviously caused confusion in the car, correct?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
When he told everyone in the car that he was going to have to reschedule the photo shoot, there was a question in the car as to whether or not he was even a photographer, right?
No, sir.
Abstain.
That'll be overruled.
And that was when the demand was made to see the inside of the backpack, correct?
No, sir.
And it's then that the men found condoms and lube in the backpack, right?
I never saw it.
And again, Mr. McIntyre was your boyfriend at the time, right?
He said I was his girlfriend.
Okay. You weren't dating Mr. McIntyre at all? That you don't recall your testimony from yesterday?
Yes, I recall it, but he would call me his girlfriend.
Okay. You were dating him, right?
So he says.
Okay. You dispute that now?
I always said I was never wanting to date him.
Okay. Do you recall your testimony yesterday?
Yes.
And you recall saying that you were his girlfriend yesterday?
Yes.
Okay. So, when they find the lube and the condoms in the backpack, that's when a physical altercation breaks out, right?
I never saw it, but yes.
And that's when you handed Taymor a gun, right?
No.
That's what you told Mr. Horace, correct?
No.
And eventually, as the struggle continued, that was when eventually Mark was ejected from the car. He was thrown out of the car, right?
I asked them to let him go after they were beating him.
And when we talk about Day, Jalen Bell and Jeremiah Rodriguez were in the backseat of the car with Mark, right?
Correct.
They were the ones who had the easiest access to hit Mark, right?
So did Taymor.
Okay, so you described that Mark would have been sitting directly behind Taymor, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so when Mark gets out of the car, he jumps on the hood of the car, right?
Not immediately.
Right, he tries the doors to get back in first, correct?
Correct.
And then when that doesn't work, he jumps on the hood of the car.
Correct.
And while he's on the hood of the car, he begins to stomp the windshield, right?
Once we were in the Chick-Fil-A parking lot, when Taymor told me to drive the car back and forth so I can get him off,
You can answer.
Question. Yes.
that's when he smashed the windshield.
Okay. And he was kicking the windshield, right?
He kicked it once.
And you said he was kicking the windshield at you, correct?
He kicked it once.
I'm asking you, and you said previously that he kicked it at you.
I don't know who he was kicking it at.
Okay. I'm going to call your attention to roughly minute 7:05.
I'm gonna tell you everything. I didn't make you this really. But what happened was I was the guy that I had Taymor, you know Taymor. He messaged him through Instagram because he wanted us to give a photo shoot. So that's what we're messaging about. Then Taymor would take my phone and he would talk to him. Like Taymor had my phone the whole entire time. I barely got to talk to my mom, anybody. Anyway, so one day he was just like, okay, we're gonna go pick him up so we can have our photo shoot. I said, okay. So we went and picked him up. He asked me if I could just give him a ride to North Star, and I was like, okay, that's fine. And so we were going, and out of nowhere, we were at a stoplight, and Taymor takes out a gun and tells him to give him everything. I didn't know this was gonna happen. I swear on everything, I didn't know this was gonna happen. And they all just start fighting, and I'm at the light, and I'm like, I don't know what to do, and I was like, please just let him out, and they're pushing him out, and I think Taymor grabbed his backpack and opened it, and took out everything inside of it, and what we found was a roll of condoms, a bottle of lube, and a whole brand new outfit, so he was like, just get him out of the car, So they were pushing him out of the car, and he was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. And he was trying to get back in the car, and they were trying to push him back out. And the light was still red the whole entire time. And I was just there like, I don't know what to do. And Taymor was just like, shut up. And then I was just like, okay. And I was just at the wheel. And then when they were pushing him out again, the lights finally turned green. And I was like, okay, this is my chance to get away from this dude. So, and then he jumps on my hood. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? And I still didn't know what to do. Taymor was like, keep driving. And he pointed the gun at me. He was like, keep driving. And I was like, no. And I was going to get on the highway so I could get away. And he was like, no. He was like, pull over somewhere. So I pulled over, and it happened to be at the Chick-Fil-A. And the guy was just kept stopping on my hood and everything. And I was trying to back up so he could get off my car. And I didn't know what to do. Like, I really was just going back and forth because I didn't know what to do. And then the guy said something, and he tried kicking me through the windshield, and then that's when Taymor did that.
What did he do?
He shot him.
No, you told the detective that he was kicking at you through the windshield, right?
Correct.
You also told the detective that you said we found condoms and lube in the backpack, right?
I said that, but I never saw it myself, and I made that clear afterwards.
And in the course of that, they're roughly slightly after 8 minutes and 25 seconds into it, you say the phrase, and he pointed the gun at you. And I just want to get a sense of this. During the exchange, when Mark is on the hood of the car stomping, you told everybody in the car that you thought he had a gun, right?
No.
That's what you told Mr. Horace, though, right?
No, I didn't.
But you were yelling, he's got a gun.
No, I did not.
That's when Taymor shot you, right?
No.
You originally indicated that you didn't know whether anyone had a gun in the car when you got in the car that day, right? You remember telling the detective that?
I said that Taymor and Jalen always carried a gun.
Okay, so you don't remember telling the detective that you didn't know anyone had a gun when you got in?
No.
And then later in the interview, you're asked about what gun Jalen Bell was carrying, and you specifically told the detective he was carrying a 9mm, right?
Yes, that's what he always carried.
After the shooting, as you're driving away, Jalen Bell had the backpack, right?
I don't know who had the backpack.
And you know that it was Jalen Bell who threw Mark's cell phone out of the car, correct?
So he said.
Okay, you didn't believe that?
I never saw it.
Did you tell the detective that Jalen threw the phone out of the window?
Correct.
And you know that it was Jalen who went through the wallet. I believe you testified to that fact yesterday, correct?
Correct.
Now, I want to get something clear. You testified that Mark got into the car with the backpack and the camera. Do you recall saying that?
Correct.
Was the camera in the backpack, or was it separate from the backpack?
I never saw.
You never saw a camera,
I knew he had a camera. He's a photographer.
but you say you didn't see it.
I didn't see if it was outside the bag or in the bag.
What's in Ector County? Odessa?
Yes.
What's there?
Objection relevant.
What's the relevancy?
She was apprehended in Ector County.
All right, objection sustained.
Where did you go? Where were you when you were arrested for this?
Odessa.
Okay. Why did you go to Odessa?
Objection relevant.
Overruled.
Kayla's friends took me over there.
Okay. Which friends?
Deja and Keon.
Okay. They gave you a ride?
Yes.
Did you have any family there?
No.
Did you have any connections there?
No.
Okay. After this incident, and after Taymor and Jalen left Jeremiah's house, you never saw Taymor again, right?
No, only through FaceTime.
Okay. But you often told others that you were unable to get a hold of Taymor on FaceTime, right?
Not true.
Okay. You weren't upset that Taymor wasn't responding to you or answering your phone calls?
Not at all.
Do you remember that you were at one point concerned that you might be pregnant and you were trying to reach him and you couldn't get a hold of him?
No, they were manipulating me to think that I was.
Okay. You're referring to who when you say they?
Kayla and his dad.
Okay. You don't remember the night that Desiree found out she was pregnant?
Objection relevant.
It goes
Sustained.
directly to what she's testifying to.
Sustained.
Do you not remember telling Desiree and Kayla that you thought you were pregnant?
No.
You don't remember Kayla and Desiree encouraging you to take a pregnancy test so you know one way or the other?
Kayla made me take a pregnancy test, yes.
Okay, and you weren't pregnant, right?
No.
When you left yourself, when you left San Antonio yourself, you went by way of the Greyhound bus, right?
Correct.
And your father took you?
Correct.
And you didn't tell your father that you didn't want to go to Dallas, right?
No.
And when you went up to Dallas, you stayed with Kayla and Desiree, right?
Correct.
And you called Kayla and Desiree and asked if you could stay there, correct?
I only stayed at Desiree's one night.
Okay, you stayed at Desiree's parents' house, right?
Correct.
They had a barbecue, right?
No, they didn't.
They didn't offer you barbecue from a previous occasion?
No, I didn't eat.
Okay. While you were in Dallas, you were working as a stripper there too, right?
They made me, yes.
Okay. And in order to dance in the Dallas strip club scene, you have to register your fingerprints and show your driver's license to an authority figure, to the county, right?
No, sir.
Okay. You never went to the county to get your fingerprints taken?
Yes, but I didn't have to do that at the strip club.
Right, but you did it for your work in the strip club, right?
No, sir.
Okay. Why did you go get your fingerprints taken in Dallas County?
Because they didn't ask for that.
I thought you just said that you did get your fingerprints taken.
For my ID.
Okay, well, you gave them your ID, right?
Correct.
And they photocopied it?
Correct.
Okay. And that was in order to get an ID for the strip clubs, right?
Correct.
To verify if you were old enough to dance, right?
Correct.
Okay. That would have been, obviously, before you say that your bag and all of your identifiers were stolen, correct?
Correct.